Alan Watts possessed a rare genius, the ability to take ancient, intricate wisdom and translate it into images so simple, so disarmingly clear, that you felt as if you had known them all along. He would speak with the calm confidence of someone who had played with life's deepest questions and returned with treasure in his pockets. His message was not about escaping life, but entering it more fully. And the gateway, he insisted, was letting go. When you try to control the world, he said, you lose control. When you let go, you gain freedom. In this extended journey, you will explore how releasing the need for control allows you to rediscover peace, how flowing with life dissolves resistance, and how living lightly opens a doorway to inner strength. To understand Watts, you must see him as more than a philosopher. He was a cultural bridge, a living translation of Eastern thought for the Western mind. Born in England in 1915, he grew up surrounded by nature, art, and the restless curiosity that would define his entire life. He was barely a teenager when he started devouring books on Buddhism, Taoism, and Christian mysticism, reading not out of obligation, but out of an almost spiritual hunger. When he moved to America, he found an intellectual landscape ready to be reimagined. In San Francisco, during the rise of the Beat Generation, Watts became a beacon. Artists, poets, musicians, and spiritual seekers flocked to hear him speak because he made the mystical feel tangible and the profound feel playful. One of the reasons Watts resonated so strongly was that he exposed a fundamental misunderstanding about human existence, the belief that we are separate from the universe, isolated within our minds, cut off from everything around us. He would often say, "You are not a stranger here. You are part of this world in the same way a wave is part of the ocean. You rise, you fall, you change form, but you never stop being the ocean itself. When we cling, when we try to control every outcome, we forget our nature. We forget that life moves through us, not around us." Watts invited people to feel this truth not intellectually, but experientially, to breathe more deeply, to soften their grip, and to trust their natural rhythm. His metaphor of water remains one of the most powerful tools for understanding his teachings. He explained that water is the ultimate teacher because it embodies flexibility, strength, and wisdom without effort. Water does not resist, yet it shapes mountains. It does not attack, yet it wears down stone. It does not cling to a container, yet it adapts perfectly to any form. Watts believed human suffering often arises because we forget how to be fluid. We harden ourselves with expectations, judgments, fears, and demands, and then we wonder why we feel broken. But if you watch a stream moving around rocks, always finding a new path, the lesson becomes clear. Peace is found in movement, not rigidity. The way Watts talked about the mind was both humorous and revealing. He compared constant thinking to having a noisy radio stuck on high volume. Most people, he said, live their entire lives trapped inside this mental chatter, confusing the noise for reality. Yet thinking is just a tool. It was never meant to be the master. He encouraged people to treat their thoughts as passing phenomena, not commands. When you observe the mind instead of obeying it, a new space opens, one filled with clarity, intuition, and calm. Muddy water becomes clear, he explained, when allowed to settle. This simple image contains an entire philosophy. Stillness creates insight. Much of modern stress, he argued, comes from our complicated relationship with time. We worship the future, worry about the past, and miss the present entirely. Watts insisted that the present is all we ever truly have, yet it is the one thing we treat as if it were insignificant. He joked that humans are the only creatures who spend their entire lives preparing to live, instead of living. We chase goals, achievements, and expectations like a dog chasing its own tail, never stopping long enough to realize the tail is already attached. Letting go, in this sense, is not about giving up ambition. It is about releasing the illusion that your life will begin someday in the future. One of Watt's most refreshing ideas was that life is not meant to be taken so seriously. He believed that existence has a playful dimension, a cosmic dance behind the appearance of structure and order. He often explained that seriousness is a human invention, while play is embedded in the nature of reality itself. You can see it in children, in animals, in music, in the way waves dance against the shore. When people become too rigid, too afraid of making mistakes, they lose the ability to participate in the dance. Letting go is the act of rejoining it, of becoming light enough to move, free enough to breathe, and open enough to enjoy the rhythm. Applying Watts's teachings in everyday life might seem abstract, but his advice was practical and deeply human. For example, he suggested that whenever you feel trapped, emotionally, mentally, or situationally, you should pause and observe what exactly you are resisting. Resistance has a physical feel: tension in the shoulders, tightness in the stomach, shallow breathing. Becoming aware of that tension is the first step toward releasing it. He also recommended simple mindfulness practices, sitting quietly without forcing anything to happen and letting the mind unwind naturally. These few minutes of silence act as a reset button, allowing clarity to emerge on its own. Watts also believed that relationships are one of the ultimate arenas where letting go reveals its power. He observed that conflict often stems from trying to control another person's thoughts, feelings, or behavior, something inherently impossible. Love, he said, is allowing others to be themselves without imposing your expectations. When you stop trying to shape others into your image, communication deepens, vulnerability becomes safe, connection becomes authentic. Even in disagreements, the tone changes. Instead of two rigid egos colliding, two human beings meet in sincerity. Another key element of Watts's philosophy is trust. Trust in yourself, in your intuition, in the natural unfolding of events. He knew that modern life trains people to fear uncertainty, but uncertainty, he insisted, is the essence of freedom. Life is unpredictable not because it is hostile, but because it is alive. When you try to force a specific outcome, you close yourself to possibilities far greater than anything you could have planned. Letting go is not passive resignation. It is active cooperation with reality. It is saying yes to the unknown with courage instead of fear. Watts described life as a musical process. You don't listen to a song to reach the final note. You listen because the entire melody matters. If life were only about arriving at the end, we'd celebrate funerals instead of birthdays. But life is an unfolding symphony. Every emotion, every experience, even every mistake is part of the music. And the great tragedy, he said, is that so many people rush through the song looking for the final chord. Letting go means letting the music play, trusting that its beauty is in its movement. As we explore his teachings more deeply, it becomes clear that letting go does not mean abandoning responsibility or ambition. Instead, it means dropping the unnecessary weight that prevents you from acting with clarity. It means moving through life with intention but without tension. It means allowing each moment to be what it is, without squeezing it into what you think it should be. Watts wanted people to remember that peace is not something you achieve. It is something you uncover when you stop fighting yourself. And now, at the end of this extended reflection, I leave you with a question Alan Watts would have loved to ask you, simple yet transformative. What are you still gripping so tightly that it is preventing you from flowing with your own life? Share it in the comments. Sometimes freedom begins the moment you speak the truth.